Welcome to Backyard Oasis, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Denise Schwartz, the host of Writers Read Us Stories They Love. Today, my guest is Joan Livingston. She's going to talk about and read from The Unforgiving Town. It's a sequel to her last book, The Sacred Dog. Both stories take place in a fictional village in the rural hill towns of Western Massachusetts, one of Joan's favorite settings for her books. I was really stuck on the title of this book, The Unforgiving Town. It made me think of something I read not so long ago. It was something like this. In small towns where everyone knows everyone, one act of injustice can weave its way through the consciousness of generations. And while time allows some to forget, for others, forgiveness can be hard to come by. Now, many of you know that I grew up in a small town. It was a fine place for me to be a child. It was the kind of place where you could drop in on a neighbor just to catch up on things without having to call first to make sure it was okay. And where kids rode their bikes to the corner store to buy another loaf of bread for the sandwiches Mom was making. And you didn't have to pay right then and there. You'd simply say, "Put it on Mom's bill, please," and ride home fast for lunch. But as a kid, I didn't know my town's backstories. You know, the things that might have happened that some folks found easy to forget, while others found it really hard to forgive. That's what we're going to hear about today when Joan tells us about Al Kitchen, who was found dead on a backcountry road a week after his release from prison, where he served 17 years for killing a local man during a robbery. We're going to discover if prison changed Al and find out that nobody in town wants to believe that it did. In fact, they wish he died in jail, and now that he's back in town, they make sure he knows he is not forgiven. First, though, more about Joan. She's a former longtime journalist in Western Massachusetts and New Mexico. She writes books for young readers and adult readers, including her Isabel Long mystery series, now numbering 8. She relies on her deep knowledge of Western Massachusetts, where she lives, and that she covered as a reporter, to create realistic characters and settings for her novels. Her most recent, The Unforgiving Town, a mystery that is not part of the Isabel Long series, is her 18th published book. Currently, she's collaborating on screenplays for an animated movie based on a novel series from the 1950s, plus one of her own books, Northern Comfort. And she just finished her 19th book, The Talking Table, a young adult novel. Whew, that's a lot to do, Joan. She's laughing. It sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Well, congratulations. And by the way, hello.
Hello, Denise. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Kind of jealous. 19 published books. Okay, I'm still working on one. But anyway, you know, I did want to talk about small towns, and you told me that small towns are dear to your heart. Mm-hmm. Tell us why.
Well, first of all, I've lived in small towns, say towns of, 1,000, 1,200. I live in a small town now, but it's a little larger than that. And also, when we used to live in Worthington for over 20 years, and I became the Worthington correspondent there. I was paid by the inch for my stories.
Oh my gosh, made a fortune, didn't you?
But it was a great opportunity to listen to the way people talked, and for them to share stories. And I loved talking, with the guy who, he logged with horses, and he would take me out on his wagon, or the woman who found a pet porcupine adopted her, or whatever. And I loved finding these so-called small stories and writing about them. And it was very inspiring. I mean, my big motto is I take what I know and I have my way with it.
Yes.
And that's what I do.
Okay. Well, I certainly do love the idea of a small town setting. I think of all the mysteries in particular in which the crime takes place in a small town, and everybody in town has something to say about it, and everybody wants to try to figure out how to solve the mystery. I love that. I want to know more, though, before we get to you telling us more about the book and you reading. I want to know how you arrived at the title that I love so much, The Unforgiving Town.
I have to say that most of my titles just pop in my head.
I knew you were going to say that.
You mentioned the sacred dog. I actually wrote that a number of years ago, and in my mind all these years I've been wondering whatever happened to Al Kitchen.
Really?
And I wanted to write a story, and I wanted to make him a different kind of character and use a different format for this story.
Well, I did read The Sacred Dog. I haven't read The Unforgiving Town yet. But when I was reading The Sacred Dog, I did not like Al Kitchen, I have to tell you. I didn't like him at all. So I want to find out how you had him change. I think that would be kind of good.
You weren't supposed to like him.
I know. And you were successful. I didn't like him. But anyway, so why don't you tell us who we're going to meet in The Unforgiving Town?
Well, of course,
there's Al.
Al, and he served 17 years in prison, and he made the most of it when he was there. And I wanted to make a character who changed because of his experience. The rest of the town doesn't believe he changed, but he did change. There was his grandmother, Jenny Kitchen, one of my favorite characters. She dies before this book, but she still has a heavy-duty presence, and she is his most loyal supporter. And
I remember reading about her. She did. She really did kind of make excuses for him, kind of help him along the way. I remember her.
Yeah, well, later on I'm going to read this. She was all prepared because she was living alone, and she had this envelope, and on the envelope it said, "When I die."
Oh, yeah.
And she has it all mapped out what to do. And I'm going to read the letter. It tells a lot about her personality. There's Bernie Tucker, who's a distant cousin who helped Jenny out. And then when Jenny died, she moved into the house because they figured it would be trashed, And she's gay, so she's a bit of an outcast herself. And she would visit Al in prison, and she's helping him get settled.
Okay, and then there's Frank Hooker.
Frank Hooker, well, he was in the last book, but he was the well-liked guy who everybody, he ran a bar called the Sacred Dog, and everybody loved Frank, but he had a grudge against Al. So his death was during a botched robbery.
And then we have the chief of police.
He wasn't in the first book. His father was, and his father's in the second book. That's Early Stevens. Scott was in the service in the first book, and then he became the town's police chief. And he's in a very difficult position to solve a murder or death of someone everybody despised.
Yeah, that would be hard.
He's an honest guy. Do
you want to talk a little bit about the parts you're going to read today before we jump into reading?
Sure. Well, when I decided, this is more of a mystery, this book, than The Sacred Dog. And rather than have, he comes home. When I first wrote the book, he was just coming home with Bernie. She was giving a ride, and it leads up to his death, and then it's solved. And I decided, this needs a jolt. And so his body is found on the side of the road.
Okay.
And then the next chapter goes back to when he's coming. It's a week earlier. Okay. And you see how unwelcomed he was, and you wonder, okay, I know he died. I know that maybe someone's involved. Who could it be?
Who could it be? The question that every mystery asks. Let's find out. You ready to read?
Sure.
Okay.
So Pete Franklin, who was early morning delivering the newspaper, finds his body along the side of the road. And here it goes. Pete stopped weighing what to do next when the town's police cruiser drove slowly from the same direction he used. He stepped past his car and waved his arms to get the cops' attention. Scott Stevens, police chief for the town of Holden, stopped the cruiser behind Pete's car and rolled down his window. Pete came closer. "I just found a dead guy's body in the road up ahead," he told the chief. "Maybe he hit something. Maybe a deer. I haven't a clue who he is." Scott nodded. He knew who the man likely was. He'd been searching for Al Kitchen since he got out of bed to take the call from dispatch around 4 that had received a frantic message from the woman living in Al's house. His cousin Bernie Tucker was worried Al hadn't come home from riding a bike. She gave a description of what he wore and the make of the bike, which belonged to her. Scott called the woman back. She said Al left sometime after 9. He had ridden the night before. This time he didn't make it back home before she went to bed, so she wondered if he had decided to take a longer ride. She had given him a headlamp so he could ride in the dark. He wouldn't wear a helmet. Bernie told Scott she found him gone when she got up in the middle of the night and the lights were still on in the house. Al wasn't in his room. That's when she drove around looking for him, thinking the bike might have gotten a flat, or, she had paused, he had been in an accident, but she couldn't find him. She didn't know which route he took. Perhaps he biked to another town. There was no place he could have stopped and stayed the night. Scott understood why nobody would welcome Al Kitchen into their home. Al was released a week ago after serving 17 years in prison for killing Frank Hooker, a man almost everybody in town knew and liked a lot. The general opinion among the people living in Holden was that Al should have spent the rest of his life in prison, but he got convicted of manslaughter and not murder. People in town couldn't understand or accept that either. Al's grandmother, Jenny Kitchen, hired a sharp lawyer who got the jury to believe Al went to the bar in the middle of the night to steal money, not kill its owner, who happened to walk in on him. Frank, who lived next door, had spotted a light inside the bar and went to check. The lawyer claimed it was self-defense when Al beat Frank Hooker with a baseball bat he kept behind the bar. It was common knowledge there was bad blood between the two men. Frank rode Al hard for many years, blaming him unfairly for his brother's death in a car crash, even though Al hadn't been at the wheel. After the call, Scott drove the roads near Al's house, but like Bernie, he found nothing. He kept expanding his search until he came to Shaw Road, which was a good 5 miles from where Al lived. Scott left the cruiser. He didn't have to check his wallet to identify the man, even with the blood on his face. Scott had met up with Al a couple of times since his release, friendly visits just to see how he was coming along, so he knew what he looked like close up. Actually, he had seen Al yesterday to tell him about a possible job. He felt no pulse when he touched Al's neck. Gray matter oozed from his ears and nose. He knew what that meant. His brain was gone. There was no use trying to revive Al. Besides, who knows how long he had been lying here. Yeah, he's dead all right, he told Pete. Scott stepped back to study the side of the road where the body and the bike had landed. This part of Shaw Road was a straightaway, so it wasn't like Al lost control going too fast downhill, although he could have been moving at a good speed. His baseball cap with a small headlamp attached, its bulb broken, lay nearby. The bike, he noted, didn't have a light. "Is this how you found him?" he asked Pete. "Uh-huh, just like that. I didn't move him. I only touched his neck like you did to see if he had a pulse." Pete shrugged. "Nothing. You know who he is?" "Yes, I do. That's Al Kitchen." "Shit, that son of a bitch. I heard he got out of prison, but I didn't recognize him. It's been years. Look, I've got to call this in. The state police need to get involved. I know you have to get on your paper route, but do you mind hanging around a few minutes in case somebody drives by? It's unlikely this time of morning, but you never know, okay?" Sure. What do you think, a deer?" "A deer? It could have happened that way." Scott had a lot more to say on the subject, but he planned to keep it to himself for now. He studied the bike. Something could have hit Al and the bike from behind, sending them both tumbling to the pavement. He supposed it wouldn't take much. Just a clipping would do. Or Al might have been spooked by something, an animal or a fast vehicle, and lost control. It had happened before. In that case, the guy was hurt, but he survived. Shaw Road wasn't super busy, especially at night, but it was a way local people used. It's even possible somebody could have driven by Al's body and did nothing after they discovered who he was. Perhaps they were somehow involved. Scott's head moved side to side. He had a lot to figure out. You think somebody could have caused it? That's another possibility. On purpose? If so, that'll be my job to find out.
I like it. Okay, keep going. I want to know what's going on.
Okay. All right. So then in chapter 2, you see Al coming home with Bernie, and checks the house. She's kept it up really well. The barn, looking around and getting familiar with what his grandmother had left him. And
I have a question. I'm raising my
Yes.
hand. Okay. I just want to know, is there a clue to who did it in that first scene, like you usually do?
No.
Okay.
Okay. No, you have to
Sorry,
read,
listeners.
You have to read
I
more.
just wanted to know.
You have to read more of the book.
What's
Okay.
the clue? What's the clue?
One thing I have to say, people who've read the book, it makes me so excited when they say, I couldn't figure it out until the end.
Oh,
And
yeah. I bet you love
yes.
hearing
Oh,
that.
I love it. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was
Okay.
just wondering.
So this is his first night home.
Okay.
And he's out checking. And Bernie is making dinner.
Okay.
Just then he heard Bernie calling from the open window over the kitchen sink. Food was ready. Checking out the place? Bernie asked as she ladled chicken stew into 2 large bowls on the stove. I tried to keep it up. Yeah, you did good. He saw she had already set the table with 2 bottles of beer, a brand he didn't recognize, 1 for each of them, and a basket of rolls. Really? Bernie handed him one of the bowls to take to the table. She followed him there, gesturing for him to sit. She did the same. The soup looked good, but first he wanted the beer. He took a drink, then another before he set the bottle down. It was great having a beer again, but he wasn't about to get wasted on his first night home, although he felt he deserved it. Instead, he would savor this moment, sitting in his own kitchen, drinking a beer, and eating a meal. Besides, it would take more than the beer he saw in the fridge to do that. Too bad Ma wasn't here to join him. She would have made his favorite meal, a steak, even with dessert. But he wasn't complaining about the chicken stew his cousin made. Besides, it was nice to eat with only one person instead of a cafeteria of men. You sure you want me to still live here? Bernie asked him. It's no problem. Glad to have you. Good, 'cause it might be hard to find a place around here to rent I could afford. I used to live with a bunch of people in Penfield before I moved into your grandmother's house. I had my own room. They weren't friends. It was just a place to stay for a while. I can pay my share of the bills. Will you charge me rent? I've got a job. It doesn't pay a lot, but enough. Nah, I ain't charging you rent. You were good to my grandmother. Al filled a spoonful of stew. Besides, if you don't mind, I'm going to need your help getting around until I'm back on the road. I don't know who'll hire me. I used to drive truck for a gravel company, but that guy won't take me back. Bernie smiled over her full spoon. Sure, I can do that, she said. Al's mouth was full, so he only nodded. The stew was tasty, certainly better than anything he ate in prison. Plus, he was drinking his first beer. The beer was so good he wanted more, but he reminded himself to take it slow, although he expected to have another tonight. Al figured taking it slow was going to be the best way to handle being back. I can cook too. When I was first inside, my ma told me to do whatever it takes to get home sooner. She said she needed me. I did my best to stay out of trouble and signed up for a job. I didn't want to be a janitor, so I worked in the kitchen. I got to eat more that way. His head swung sideways. Too bad Ma didn't last long enough to see me get out. You called her Ma? Uh-huh. She was more of a mother to me than the one I had. She died of pneumonia when I was little, only 3. So I didn't get to spend much time with her. Bernie dropped her spoon on the table. Right after I moved back, I ran into your grandmother outside the store here when I stopped for gas. I hadn't seen her in years, but I recognized her right away, since she hadn't changed that much. She always looked old to me. At first, Aunt Jenny acted suspicious. She didn't remember me, but after we talked, she said to come see her, so I did. She told me later I was the first person who was friendly to her in a real long time that she really actually trusted. She paused. I could tell she needed help, but she wasn't going to ask for it. I don't have much family left. I don't mind. I only lived in the next town. So I did what she allowed me to do, like giving her rides to the grocery store in the city or to visit you and what needed to be done around here that was too hard for her. Aunt Jenny, that's what I called her. I really liked that she didn't take crap from anybody. When I brought her to the store here in town, she wouldn't put up with people staring. I heard her say one time, "What's the matter with you? You go blind or something?" Al laughed with her. Bernie had told this story during one of her visits, but he didn't mind hearing it again. She was making him feel at home. That sounds like her, all right.
I want to know why people were always staring at her, but you can tell me that later. Okay, what's next?
Well, we just were talking about Jenny a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny is, even though she's dead, she's a major influence in this book.
Okay.
And she's one of my favorite characters that I created. And as I said before, she prepared for her death, and she had this envelope next to the living room, in the living room rather, and in it she had her will and all this stuff. And she had left a letter, and it says, "When I die." And this tells you a lot about her personality and probably Al's.
So you're going to read the letter?
Yes.
Okay.
"This is me, Jenny Kitchen. If you're reading what I wrote, then I'm dead and gone to heaven if there is one. I deserve it for what I put up with in this life. I'm not planning to go to any hospital if I get real sick, so you will probably find my cold dead body in my house. Sorry to do that to you, but this is what I want after that happens. I'm hoping my Al will be home before I kick, but I wrote this in case he isn't. I already asked Bernie Tucker to go to the prison and tell him the news herself. I don't care who else knows. I don't have any friends anymore in this stupid town. Don't bother putting an obit in the local newspaper. My death is nobody's business. I already told the man at Bendick's funeral home I wasn't wasting any money on a coffin. Just burn up my body and my clothes I'm wearing and stuff the ashes in the urn I picked out already. Everything is already paid for. See the paper in this envelope showing that, just in case. I don't want no funeral, no way. No one would come anyways, except for Bernie. They won't let Al out for that. Just bury my ashes in a hole at the family plot in the town cemetery next to my son, and not that son of a bitch husband of mine. No flowers are needed. I would like Bernie to be there so it's done right. Don't call a minister or anybody like that to pray for me. I only went to church for funerals. Bernie can use the shovel in the barn to dig the hole for my urn. She's strong enough. I'll leave everything to my grandson, Al Kitchen. See the will I wrote that's also in the envelope. That includes the house and everything in it, the land and money in the bank. I already went to a lawyer to put his name on the deed and my bank account, so now it is all his. I didn't spend a lot on purpose because I wanted to leave him something. Al was the best thing in my life. I love you, boy. Bernie Tucker has been good family to me. It hasn't been easy for her, so I want her to live in my house if Al is still locked up. She can have my room. After that, Al and her can figure it out. She doesn't pay rent. She just has to cover the house's bills. Make sure to take care of my cats. Give my clothes away to somewhere people can use them. Take care of my cats. I will write that again. To Al, no one is going to like you when you get out. They'll never give you a break. This is the unforgiving town. When that happens, stay clear of everybody. You don't want to go back inside. Find somebody to love who loves you. One more thing to Al. You got a daughter, but she doesn't know it. She's a pretty nice girl when I see her. Now she's grown up. What are you going to do about it? That's all I want to write. Goodbye forever, Jenny Kitchen.
Wow. You know what that reminds me of? You know how obituaries are changing and people were writing things like that for their own obituaries? That's what it reminded me of. I think it's a really good way to say everything you always wanted to say before you go. I like that. I wanted to think about, why did she feel like people were not going to ever like her? And so I'm sure that in the book we're going to find out what her story was too. And if not, that's going to be book 21. And I'll write it. Okay. I really like her too. You're going to read one more thing, aren't you?
It's very short.
Okay.
In the on the cover, you'll see these birds. Okay, and that's a murder of crows.
Right.
And that's what this chapter is called. And I think it really describes Al's situation in this unforgiving town.
Oh, I really want to hear this. Go ahead.
Okay. He is painting the house that hasn't been painted in many, many years. And so that's how he keeps himself occupied. And at nighttime, he rides Bernie's bike. And so in this chapter, it's called A Murder of Crows. You hear a little bit more about that. Tuesday morning, Al had one goal in mind, painting the right side of the house as early as he could, so the clapboards would be good and dry. Bernie told him it was supposed to definitely rain tomorrow. The storm got delayed a day. Too bad about the interruption. He felt like he was on a roll. But then again, it might be nice to take a break. Painting wasn't hard work, but he was using muscles he normally didn't. Al held on to the paint can's handle as he climbed the ladder to the right side's peak. The brush and a rag were stuck in the back pocket of his jeans. Once he reached the top, Al looked over the house's roof, through the thinning trees, to the homes belonging to the people who lived nearby. He had no idea if they were the same people who lived there when he did the last time. A bird's loud caw caught his attention. When he looked skyward, crows were chasing a hawk. He counted 10 in the group. The birds were on the hawk's backside, cawing, insistent in their pursuit. The hawk was a powerful creature that killed for its food, but here it was being turned away by a mob of smaller birds, a murder of crows. He remembered it was called. The hawk had to be stronger than any of them, but it wasn't taking any chances. Al knew how the hawk felt, being chased away like that. What the fuck, he said. Al continued to watch until the birds were out of his sight, then he began to paint again.
Well, that didn't tell me who did it.
Oh, you're going to have to read the book, Denise. Sorry.
Wow. Okay, so I have more questions, but I don't think we have time to answer them. I want to know why you wanted to write this book. What was important about it for you?
I really loved the characters from the first book, and I wanted to give them something else to do.
Oh, so like murder and things is just something else to do? Is that it, Joan?
No, I really liked the character of Al Kitchen. I thought he was misjudged in the first book, The Sacred Dog, and I wanted to give him the opportunity to change, and people didn't believe it. And then also, there's also the town cop. He's put in a difficult position, because this is very personal, but he wants to do the right thing.
I had some questions about, and I'm not going to do this forever, just keep asking you questions about
go
this.
right
I want
ahead.
you to talk about some things that you really want to talk about in terms of writing this book, but do we find out when we write the book why Jenny, what did she say? No one is going to come to her funeral. They didn't like her. Are we going to find out more about what happened to her and what her story was when we read this book?
No, not really. No. I mean, in The Sacred Dog, you learn about she had a bad marriage, and Al was really made her life worthwhile.
Okay.
No, I really don't plan to.
Okay, well, I can see that you're thinking in a certain direction, though, right now. Okay, one of the things that you said you wanted to do was talk about the challenges of writing a sequel, and also about how you really believe that the dialogue is authentic. And hearing you do dialogue, that's really dialogue heavy. I think you're right. It does sound like folks who live in certain areas. Talk a little more about that.
Well, I think as a reporter, and I had to write down what people said all the time, it actually ruined my handwriting, I'll tell you, learning to write fast while I'm not looking at a pad. But, just listening to people talk, it was a great thing. I feel like I was immersed in the hill towns doing that. And yeah, my books are very dialogue heavy, not a lot of description. And I don't know, I just feel like it's one of my powers, I guess.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Do people who read it hear themselves in your characters? I mean, actual real people who live in the hill towns. I mean, let's face it, we all live in towns where everybody knows everybody. So do people say, hey, that sounds like the way I talk, Joan, is that me?
No, nobody ever says that. Although some people that know me try to guess if a character is someone real.
Yeah.
I can tell you about one character who is based on a real person.
Okay.
this is my Isabel Long book, and there's this man in our town, Tim Todd, who he's a good friend, and he's could be sometimes kind of a wise guy. And one day I guess I said to him, "Hey, I'm going to put you in my next book and kill you off." And
you got to be careful when you say that kind of stuff these days.
But I forgot all about it. And then his friends would say, "Hey, I hear Tim's going to be in your book, and you're going to kill him off." He's really excited about it, and Tim was, and so. So I did it, but this was an Isabel Long book. But it was the tricky part was creating a character that I that wasn't really like him. I just used his name, you know, and someone I didn't think he'd find it was insulting or whatever. But but that was a lot of fun. But in my Isabel Long book, the mom is based on my mom, and there's a lot.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the Sacred Dog, no, and there's nobody I could say. Yeah, this is based on so and so.
Okay, I'm sure people kind of wish that you would do that because it makes them feel good, but And the other thing was, this is a sequel. How hard is it to write a sequel?
I won't read about it. This is just a 2-book thing here.
You don't think you'll do another sequel because it's difficult?
I think I told the story. I think it was complete. I didn't feel like the Sacred Dog was complete because we didn't know what happened to Al.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was complete either when I read it.
Yeah, but the Isabel Long series, I see a couple more books coming. The challenge is, like in the Sacred Dog, there's a lot of characters that are in the Unforgiving Town. This is 17 years later. So what are they doing now? And then there's also new characters. There's because it happened 17 years, there's teenagers that weren't alive then. There's some, there's a few new characters, but how do you, it's interesting to bring characters onto another book, to maintain their personality and their, what they're doing, upgrading them and all that.
Yeah, I think it would be fun to do. I'm really interested in reading it now. I see you have a copy there. I'm sure you're going to give it to me. And I want to find out the significance of the murder of crows. I really loved that. I could picture him up there on that roof and looking at that and having a sense of foreboding.
Right. It took a lot of crows to chase off a hawk.
Yeah.
I used to see that a lot when we lived in New Mexico because it was such a big sky. And it amazed me that these big birds, these birds of prey would be chased off by, these smaller birds, and they do such a great job.
They do. I've seen it happen, and they just go after that bird. Yeah, they do.
And that's what Al felt like. It really symbolized his experience in town, where you have a whole bunch of people,
always after you.
Always after. Well, he goes to the dump. Someone approaches him. He's outside the grocery store. The general store, and someone will approach him. There's just no, he's riding his bike, and someone will stop, and so they're.
Wait a minute. He's riding his bike, and someone will stop. Are we trying to figure out what happened to Al when you say that? You didn't give it away, did you?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
So you're doing a few other things. Let's quickly, because I can see that we're winding down now. And you have a big meeting to go to after this, Madam Select Person.
Yeah.
Number one, tell people how they can find your books. I think it's really interesting that they can find your books in your son's brew pub.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you can tell them how else they can find them. And maybe say something about any of the other projects that you're working on if you want to.
Yeah. Oh, I should tell them, you can get it on Amazon. They're on Amazon in Kindle or in paperback. And if you're in Shelburne Falls on the Buckland side and you go to Floodwater Brewing, you can get it for at the Floodwater discount of $10.
Wow.
But anyways.
And also listen to some really good music, I hear.
Oh, great music and great beer. But anyways, and it's a lot of community beer. But anyways, what was the other question again?
What you're doing next.
Well, right now I'm getting ready. I'm querying for the Talking Table, which is a YA book. And I decided I would try that again. Most of my books are self-published now.
Mm-hmm.
But then I want to do the next Isabel Long book. And so I'm getting ready for that by reading the last 2 books so she can be in my head. Oh, no, and I forgot. There's a book coming out. It's the 3rd in my Twin Gin book. Twin Gin is a group of genies who live with amongst us. And this one is the Twin Gin in the Land of Enchantment, which was northern New Mexico. And
I'm just shaking my head. It's like you never stop.
well, I wrote that book before, and now I've just been editing and stuff like that. You know, it's to me, it's not work. It's what I really, really enjoy doing.
I can tell. I can see that on your face. You're really loving this.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved hearing this. I'm really wanting to read that book.
Okay, good.
Any final words for our listeners?
Let's see. I'm trying to think.
Buy the book, Joan. That's what we want to tell them. Buy the book.
Buy the book, but you know, and sometimes they're available in some of the local libraries too.
Oh, good. Oh, yes, I've gotten them from the library. Right.
And go to your local library and say, "Hey, could you carry Joan Livingston's books?" That would make me happy.
I've done that. So did that make you happy?
Oh yeah.
Should we go have a beer then to celebrate that you're happy and I'm happy?
If we could do that, well, except I have a select board meeting tonight.
Yeah, you don't want to skip that. Hey, once again, I think this is your third time that we've done an episode
Yes.
together. I
Yes.
really enjoy it. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for the invitation.
You're welcome. We'll see you after the 19th is published.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Raper, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819 if you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard Oasis, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.